Plesiosaurs, the long-necked legends. Meet the Plesiosaurs, the OG Loch Ness monsters. These marine reptiles look like someone combined a turtle, a crocodile, and a swan, then forgot to stop. With 4 powerful flippers and necks so long they looked like giraffes in scuba gear, Plesiosaurs were built for ambush. Some stretched up to 40 feet long, with necks that could snake through schools of fish. Imagine chilling in prehistoric waters, and suddenly, a tiny head on a 15-foot neck darts out like a horror movie jump scare. That's Plesiosaurs. Their long necks gave them options. Approach prey from odd angles, snap sideways without moving their body, or lurk below and poke up like a nightmare periscope. It's also why some modern cryptid hunters insist Nessie is a surviving plesiosaur. Spoiler, Nessie is not. But if she was, you'd never go swimming in Scotland again. Plesiosaurs weren't the fastest swimmers compared to sharks, but their flippers let them fly underwater with incredible precision. Think 4 giant oars propelling a scaly submarine. If you were a fish, you had no chance. By the time you saw that creepy head, your day was over. So yeah, Plesiosaurs were the legends of the sea, and if Nessie is their PR agent, she's been doing one hell of a job. Tanystrophus Hydroides, the giraffe of the sea. If Plesiosaurs had long necks, Tanystrophus said, "That's cute." Hold my kelp. This Triassic reptile looked like a crocodile somebody stretched in Photoshop. Its neck was longer than the rest of its body combined, about 10 feet of vertebrae strung together like a nightmare accordion. Scientists still argue how this thing even worked. Some say it lurked in shallow lagoons, holding its long neck out like a fishing pole to snatch unsuspecting prey. Others think it slithered its head into schools of fish and snapped sideways before anyone noticed. Either way, with a body shaped like, oops, all neck, it was one of evolution's weirdest experiments. Its neck bones were so heavy and stiff that Tanystrophus probably couldn't bend them much. Picture trying to sneak up on fish with a rigid broomstick for a neck. Not exactly graceful, but hey, it survived millions of years, so who's laughing now? At full length, it stretched nearly 20 feet, which is impressive until you realize half of that was neck. Imagine living your whole life basically as a reptilian giraffe on vacation. Tanystrophus wasn't the scariest predator, but it was definitely the strangest. If you saw one today, you'd either scream in terror or assume someone left a rejected Pokemon in the ocean. All right, I will be posting more videos here, so slam that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. This helps us to rank better in the YouTube algorithm. Helicoprian, the buzzsaw shark. Now we enter nightmare territory. Helicoprian was a shark with a literal buzzsaw in its mouth. Instead of neat rows of teeth like normal sharks, this one had a spiral of jagged blades curling backward into its jaw. For decades, scientists had no clue how it fit. Early guesses showed it hanging under the jaw like a saw blade beard. Others thought it was a circular blade sticking out of its face. Basically, Helicoprian got memed before memes existed. Turns out, the saw was inside the lower jaw. As new teeth grew, old ones spiraled back into the throat, creating a horrifying meat grinder. Imagine a fish getting caught in that. It's like being fed into a prehistoric garbage disposal. This monster swam around 270 million years ago, growing up to 25 feet long. Its diet? Likely soft-bodied prey, like squid, which it sliced up with its rotary chainsaw mouth. To put it simply, Helicoprian looked like evolution tried to invent a kitchen appliance but accidentally made a shark instead. Terrifying, impractical, and unforgettable. Habilia Optatada, the crab-lobster mystery. Next up, Habilia Optatada, a creature from 500 million years ago that looks like a crab, a lobster, and a nightmare had a baby. It was small, but covered in spines, with way too many legs and jaws designed for crunching hard shells. Some paleontologists think it was an ancestor to modern crabs and lobsters, but honestly, it looks like something you'd find lurking in a seafood restaurant dumpster. Habilia thrived during the Cambrian explosion, a time when evolution was basically throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what worked. Spiny armor? Check extra legs? Sure. Weird, gnashing mouth parts? Why not? It probably scavenged as much as it hunted, crawling across ancient seafloors like the garbage truck of the ocean. And, let's be real, if you saw one skitter across your living room floor today, you'd burn the house down. Lirirapax unwispenus, the alien shrimp. If Habilia was weird, Lirirapax said, "Hold my exoskeleton." This beast swam 520 million years ago, armed with grasping claw-like appendages and a circular, spiky mouth. Imagine a shrimp crossed with a facehugger from Alien, and you're halfway there. It belonged to a group called Radiodonts, some of the earliest apex predators. Fossils show it had a brain structure strikingly similar to modern arthropods, meaning this wasn't just a dumb shrimp, it was an efficient little hunter. It would cruise ancient seas, grab prey with its spiny claws, and funnel it straight into its nightmare mouth. Scientists say it grew about 3 feet long, which doesn't sound scary until you remember everything else alive at the time was basically worm-sized. To a Cambrian critter, Lirirapax was the final boss. Basically, it's proof that shrimp used to be terrifying before we decided to dip them in cocktail sauce. Mosasaurs, the apex predators. If you've seen Jurassic World, you already know mosasaurs. Those giant lizards that make sharks look like appetizers. These marine reptiles grew over 50 feet long, with flippers, tails like crocodiles, and mouths big enough to swallow a dolphin whole. They were the apex predators of the late Cretaceous, eating fish, turtles, ammonites, and even other mosasaurs. Because when you're the biggest in the ocean, your only rival is your cousin. Their most horrifying feature? A second set of jaws hidden in the throat, just like the xenomorph from Alien. These jaws yanked prey deeper into the gullet, making escape impossible. Mosasaurs were so dominant that when they showed up, they practically bullied Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs into extinction. Imagine a Komodo dragon crossed with a T-Rex, juiced up with flippers, and turbocharged for the ocean. That was a mosasaur. If sharks give you nightmares, be glad mosasaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. Because if they didn't, humans never would have invented boats. Placodants, the shell crushers. After all that chaos, let's meet the ocean's chill monsters, the Placodants. Think prehistoric sea turtles, but instead of nibbling lettuce, they crunched shellfish with molar-like teeth. Placodonts had wide, flat bodies, sometimes even armored shells, and jaws designed for cracking open clams, mussels, and anything with a shell. They'd just mosey along the seafloor, hoovering up mollusks like a prehistoric vacuum cleaner. They weren't scary to humans, unless you were an oyster. Then placodonts were your personal apocalypse. Some species developed shells so thick they looked like floating tanks. Imagine a reptile with the vibe of a panda, but the jaw strength of a nutcracker on steroids. Cute? Yes. Terrifying if you're a clam? Absolutely. Sea scorpions, Eurypterids. Arachnophobia, the ocean edition. If spiders and scorpions freak you out, congratulations. The ocean had worse. Eurypterids, or sea scorpions, were giant arthropods that grew up to 8 feet long. That's taller than most people. They looked like armored scorpions on steroids, with massive claws for snatching prey and paddle-like limbs for swimming. Picture walking into shallow water and seeing a sofa-sized scorpion glide toward you like it owns the place. That's Eurypterids. Some species were ambush predators, lying in wait before lunging at fish. Others may have hunted in groups, because apparently one sofa scorpion wasn't enough nightmare fuel. The good news? They went extinct around 250 million years ago. The bad news? They were once the dominant predators in Earth's waters. If they still existed, none of us would ever set foot in a swimming pool again. So yeah, spiders in your house are annoying. But sea scorpions? They were proof that the ocean doesn't need to be deep to scare you. Sometimes the monsters were waiting in knee-deep water. Saccharitis coronarius, the blob grandparent of all. At first glance, Saccharitis looks harmless. A tiny, wrinkly blob about a millimeter long. But here's the wild part. It might be one of the earliest known ancestors of humans. Yep, you come from a blob with one hole. It lived 540 million years ago and had a big mouth, no anus, and little pores around its body that probably evolved into gills. Which means every meal went in and out the same way. Efficient? Maybe. Gross? Absolutely. Scientists think Saccharitis is part of the Deuterostem family tree, which eventually led to everything from starfish to us. So next time you're feeling fancy and evolved, remember, your great-great-great-great-great-grandparent was a wrinkly sea bean with one hole. Evolution had to start somewhere. Unfortunately, it started with this. Ichthyosaurs, dolphin imposters of doom. At first glance, ichthyosaurs look friendly, like prehistoric dolphins. But don't be fooled. These reptiles were apex predators disguised as cute sea mammals. They were streamlined, fast, and some grew over 60 feet long. Their jaws were lined with sharp teeth perfect for catching fish, squid, and even other marine reptiles. Imagine a dolphin, but instead of smiling at you, it's calculating how many bites it would take to eat you whole. Even creepier, fossil evidence shows some ichthyosaurs gave live birth in the water, captured in fossils mid-delivery. That's right, we have Jurassic baby photos of reptilian dolphin wannabes. For millions of years, they ruled the seas, until Mosasaurs showed up and said, "Move over, nerds." But while they lasted, ichthyosaurs were basically the Formula One race cars of the ocean. Sleek, fast, and terrifying if you were in their way. Tully monsters, the Illinois enigma. Now we head to Illinois, where the state fossil is the Tully monster. And, oh boy, is it a monster? This 300-million-year-old creature had a torpedo-shaped body, eyes sticking out on stalks like a crab, and a long proboscis ending in a claw-like mouth. Imagine a vacuum cleaner with grabby tongs and a bad attitude. That's a Tully monster. For decades, nobody knew what it was. Worm? Mollusk? Alien? Scientists now think it was a vertebrate, related to lampreys, but honestly, it's still confusing. Its fossils are so bizarre, they look like doodles a bored student made in science class. If you were a fish back then, seeing a Tully monster swim at you must have been horrifying. It's the prehistoric version of a UFO sighting. You know it's real, but you can't explain what you're looking at. Odantella Simi, the half-shell pioneer. Ever wondered how turtles got their shells? Meet Odantella, the 220-million-year-old half-shelled turtle ancestor. Unlike modern turtles, it had teeth. Yes, biting turtles once existed, and only a partial shell, a hardened plastron on its belly, but no full carapace on its back. Basically, it was a turtle wearing half of its armor. This weird transitional form shows how turtles evolved their iconic design. But in the water, Odantella probably looked like a cursed lizard in a crop top. Its half-shell may have helped protect its underside from predators, while leaving its back exposed. Practical? Not really. But evolution was clearly in its testing phase. So yes, at one point in history, turtles were half-finished, and Odantella is living proof that even nature ships beta versions before the final release. Typhlosis Wellsai, the alien goldfish. Nicknamed the alien goldfish, Typhlosis was a weird, jellyfish-like creature that baffled scientists. It lived 300 million years ago and grew about 10 centimeters long. Its body was soft and squishy, with no clear skeleton or shell. For decades, paleontologists had no clue where it fit on the evolutionary tree. Some thought it was a worm. Others thought it was a mollusk. At one point, someone even suggested it was its own unique phylum, the biological equivalent of "we give up." What makes it extra strange is that fossils show it might have had a gut full of conodonts, tiny, eel-like creatures with sharp teeth. So this squishy blob was out there eating toothy predators for lunch. Typhlosis is proof that sometimes evolution makes something so weird, even 300 million years later, we still don't know what the hell it was supposed to be. Basilosaurus, the misnamed whale king. Basilosaurus means king lizard, but plot twist, it was actually a whale. A massive 60-foot-long early whale with terrifying teeth. Unlike today's filter-feeding blue whales, Basilosaurus was a carnivore. It hunted fish, sharks, and possibly even smaller whales. Imagine an eel-shaped whale with jaws designed for chomping. That was Basilosaurus. It also still had tiny hind limbs, useless for walking, but a creepy reminder of its land-dwelling ancestors. Picture a giant sea monster with little vestigial legs flapping around like an evolutionary joke. Basilosaurus was so snake-like that early paleontologists thought it was a reptile, hence the misleading name. But no, it was a whale, a big, angry, meat-eating whale that you'd never want to meet while swimming. Fangjing Shenia renovata, the spiny shark imposter. Now, let's rewind 439 million years to meet Fangjing Shenia, one of the earliest jawed vertebrates. This creature looked like a small shark covered in spines. Not huge, about 25 centimeters long, but significant because it shows the origins of jaws and paired fins. Before this, most vertebrates were jawless blobs. Fangjing Shenia basically said, "Enough of that. Time to bite stuff." Its body was armored with bony plates, and those spines probably discouraged predators. It wasn't the scariest thing in the sea, but it was a game changer. Without Fangjing Shenia and its friends, sharks, fish, and even humans wouldn't exist today. So yeah, this little spiky fish might not look terrifying, but it's one of the most important monsters on the list. It invented biting, and the rest is history. Opabinia Regalis, the five-eyed freak. Opabinia was the Cambrian era's answer to, how weird can we make an animal before it looks like a rejected Pokemon? It was about 3 inches long, with 5 eyes on stalks, a segmented body, and a long hose-like proboscis ending in a claw. Imagine a vacuum cleaner crossed with a shrimp, then give it 5 googly eyes. That was Opabinia. Those 5 eyes let it scan for prey in all directions. The proboscis worked like a grabby arm, snatching small critters and shoving them straight into its backwards-facing mouth. Yes, backwards. Nature didn't care about symmetry yet. When scientists first presented Opabinia in the 1970s, the audience reportedly burst out laughing because it looked so ridiculous. But don't laugh too hard. In the Cambrian seas, Opabinia was a top-tier predator. Tiny, yes, but terrifying if you were a worm. Archelon Eskyros, the tank turtle. If modern turtles look cute, Archelon looked like a tank with flippers. This prehistoric giant sea turtle stretched up to 15 feet long, with a leathery shell and crushing jaws strong enough to snap through ammonite shells. It lived about 80 million years ago, gliding through the seas like an armored battleship. Unlike modern turtles with hard shells, Archelon's was leathery and flexible, helping it maneuver in open waters. Its sheer size meant few predators dared to mess with it, except Mosasaurs, because of course, Mosasaurs. Still, Archelon's bulk and armor made it one of the ocean's great survivors. the reptilian equivalent of a tank rolling down Main Street. If you saw one today, you'd probably mistake it for a small submarine until it snapped your fishing boat in half. Megalodon, the real Jaws. You knew this one was coming. Megalodon was the undisputed king of sharks, a 60-foot-long monster with teeth the size of your hand. It lived about 23 to 3.6 million years ago and ate whales for breakfast. Its bite force was estimated at over 40,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a car like a soda can. Imagine Jaws, but 3 times bigger and with zero interest in being filmed for Hollywood. Megalodon teeth have been found all over the world, showing it ruled every ocean. Some say it still exists, hiding in the deep. Scientists say no. Personally, I say if it did, none of us would be brave enough to swim in a pool, let alone the sea. So next time you see a great white shark and think, that's scary, just remember, Megalodon would have used it as a toothpick. Titanicus Gainesi, the giant pancake predator. Titanicus was basically a Cambrian Roomba of death. It had a flat, pancake-shaped body over 20 inches long, making it one of the giants of its time. It belonged to the same group as Lera, with spiny claws and a circular mouth full of teeth. But instead of being sleek, Titanicus looked like a prehistoric armored blanket. It would cruise along the seafloor, vacuuming up prey with its spiny appendages. If you were a worm, Titanicus was your worst nightmare. An alien pancake descending from above. Its design makes no sense by today's standards, but in the Cambrian seas, it was top predator material. Proof that sometimes the weirdest shapes win. Webster Oprian Armstrongi, the demon worm. This one comes straight from your nightmares. Webster Oprian was a giant worm with jaws up to half a meter long. Yes, jaws, as in sharp serrated teeth hidden inside a worm's throat. It lived about 400 million years ago, lurking in burrows on the sea floor. When prey swam by, Webster Oprian lunged out, clamping down with its massive jaws before dragging victims back underground. Basically, it was the original grab you from the shadows monster. Think of the sandworms from Dune, but pocket-sized. Well, nightmare pocket-sized. If you hate worms already, congratulations. Webster Oprian just made them worse. Dunla Oastius Terelli, the armored tank fish. Meet the fish that makes sharks look like amateurs. Oastius was a 30-foot-long armored predator from 360 million years ago. Instead of teeth, it had massive bony plates that worked like a built-in guillotine. Its bite was powerful enough to crush armor and slice through other giant fish like butter. And its head was covered in thick plating, making it a literal swimming tank. If you were a Devonian fish, you didn't fear sharks. You feared Oastius. It was fast, armored, and capable of biting you in half before you knew what happened. Basically, it was the bulldozer of the ancient seas. Subtle? No. Effective? Very.